When we start our businesses, it's just us. But as we continue to grow and expand, we have to start thinking about delegating. And with delegation comes building a team of people who you support and who you want to engage and really inspire to give their best effort so your business is able to grow at a faster pace. So in this episode, we will be talking about how can you build up that team who you then engage and inspire so that they are doing their job at that A level that you know that they're capable of. I am Mark Roberti, host of the Breakthrough Success podcast, and we have a guest today who is a high energy speaker, recognized author, very successful entrepreneur, and sought after advisor to business owners. Our guest has experience in large and small companies, including he was there to grow a small manufacturing business to well over $100 million in annual revenues, and he has helped hundreds of business owners harness the power of their team. Our guest who joins us is none other than Rich Allen. Rich, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mark. So glad to be here today. Thanks for having me on.
Rich, I'm so happy to have you on Breakthrough Success. And I do feel like there are so many people who have to think about building a team in the first place. So we'll be talking about engaging that team and inspiring them so they are on their A game. They are really committed to the work that they're doing and helping the business expand. But for people who are a little skeptical, I could do it all by myself. What words of wisdom do you have for that crowd?
Well, I would say just two things, Mark, that drive me to focus on this area. And there are two statistics, right? It's important we get our facts straight. The first statistic is that 80% of businesses will never reach their 10-year anniversary. So people will put their hard-earned effort into starting a business, and most of them won't make it 10 years. And oftentimes it's because the business owner themselves can't hold it together for that long without building a team. But here's the second statistic, Mark, that's really, I think, driving the activity. And that is that over 50% of current employees are actively looking for a new job today. So anybody who's got a business today has to look around them and say, 1 out of 2 of all of my team members are active, probably have their resume on Indeed, and they're spending some time looking for their next best opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really important stat there. And it shows that, when like a lot of people don't start businesses at a young age, which is unfortunate, but you do have the more common scenario of that person starting a business while raising a family, while going to work and commuting. So that's why I could see, so many businesses not really making it. And it's not that the business idea is bad all the time. Like, you need to have a working model for it to work, but if you have the working model, but you don't have the time to do the model, that's where a team can really help you. And then it just comes to finding people. So how do you find people who, because, no matter how hard you try, if you hire the wrong people, it's just not going to work. How do you find the right people to welcome to the team?
There's, you're right, Mark. You were talking about the fact that the idea is oftentimes a good idea. In fact, I would tell you in most cases, most business owners or most people that start a business, they've got a great idea. And in many cases, their execution is even really good. But over time, if you're going to grow that business, it quickly overwhelms a solopreneur, right? It doesn't take long to do that. And then comes the challenge. It's probably a two-part challenge. One is, when's the right time to start to build your team? And the second thing is, how do you do that in a way that makes sense? And I'll tell you this, here are just two thoughts real quick, and then we can dive in wherever. I would say that in most cases, most people wait too long to add team members into their business. And they do that because they don't think they can afford it yet. So I have this rule that I use with business owners I work with, and I tell them, if you can afford a half of the person, so if you've got enough cash flow to be able to fund one half of their salary, hire them, because what they'll bring to your business will allow you to be able to earn the revenue necessary and the profits necessary to get the other half. And then you're going to go faster, quicker. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's number one. The second piece is, I would tell you, and this is, I think, a mistake most business owners make. If you look at most job postings that are out there today, Mark, they all focus on the skill required for the job. So it'll be all about what background they must have, what experiences they must have had, the skills required, certifications, whatever it might be. I've yet to see anybody get let go from a business because they didn't have the skill. What they're oftentimes don't have are the behaviors that we need for them to be a good player on our team. So I tell people, don't worry about the skills, worry about the fit, worry about the behaviors. And if you focus on that first, you're going to find people who are the right, have the right behaviors and will bring the right attitude to your business. And you can always teach them the skill.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at professional athletes, because that's the example everyone goes to, it's not like someone being born with talent who makes it. It is someone who has the right behaviors in place to work out at like 5 a.m., 6 a.m. And I've heard a bunch of these different stories throughout Breakthrough Success. And that really speaks to the idea of you could be naturally talented at something, or you could have the skill, but if you don't have the behavior, if you don't have the right mindset, then all that talent, all that skill doesn't matter. So it is important to, hire for the behavior, but it's not like people say, this is my behavior. It's not like, I am impatient. I do not communicate properly. I do not take orders from anyone. People don't say those things.
Right.
It's like, I'm a great communicator. I am the best learner. I will listen to everything you say. I will come forward. So people overhype themselves. So especially on an application. So how do you figure out who really has the right behavior and who's just faking it?
Yeah, here's what I'll tell you, that I take a very different approach to hiring. And I believe most business owners don't have a robust hiring process at all. They hire so late that they're desperate for somebody, so they'll take the first person who looks like they could do the job. It's the wrong way to go. So I take this approach of hiring slow so that we can get the right person. But in that process, what I'd say is this: if I were to give some very practical tips to your listeners here, it would be, one, post your job as if you were marketing your product. So don't make it a job posting that's all about the limitations and the what they've got to do in the job. Promote your job as if you're promoting your product. In other words, tell them all the benefits and the value that they get from being on your team. What you want to do is cast a wide net, and you want to collect a lot of people, get a lot of people interested. And then you can use multiple screening steps to screen down. Here's one that I find, Mark, that's unbelievably valuable, and it does exactly what you're talking about. And that is, I typically, when we're doing this, we'll bring our top 10 candidates. So we'll sort through those that apply. We'll take our top 10 candidates. We'll bring them in for what we call a group interview. In other words, all 10 candidates in the same room, or all 10 candidates on the same Zoom call. So we can do it virtually. But that way, when they're in together with everybody else who they're competing with, they can't hide. Most people can game any interviewer in a one-on-one interview situation. You've seen it all the time. I teach people how to interview. So I know I can teach people how to say the right things, do the right things one-on-one. When you put them in a group with all the people they're competing with, their peers, I promise you, all the defenses go down. You see who they really are, and then their personality and their behaviors really rise. And you get to see exactly who they are, because you're right. They won't tell you otherwise that they're not this or that. But when you see them among their peers, it comes out like a spotlight.
Hmm. And I mean, I still feel like, some people are, you're presenting your best self in any of those scenarios, but one of the things is you're able to see the reaction. You're able to see how people react to different things, who's speaking up, who's not speaking up, and that can definitely, play a role. And that's like, I've never heard of that before. What are the key things you look for in that scenario? Is it facial reactions? Is it tone? Or is it just something else you look for?
Yeah, in fact, here's a couple of ninja tricks that we use. If we do it in a room where it's live, we'll have the people who are with the business who are hiring, we'll put them at different places in the room. And then what we will do is we'll watch who the people are paying attention to when someone asks a question. So if the hiring manager is not asking the question, let's say it's someone else on their team, we'll see whether the person looks to the hiring manager or watches and responds to the person asking the question. Likewise, if someone else is being asked a question and the other applicant isn't actively engaged at the moment, we'll watch their behavior. We'll see if they're paying attention. We'll watch if they're taking notes, right? We'll see whether if their responses are unique and genuine or whether they're trying to one up the person who just responded. It's unbelievable what people will do when they're put in that situation because it's not normal. Most won't do it. But here's the other thing I tell people, Mark, is I tell them, look, if people aren't willing to come to the group interview, it's probably because they don't want to disclose that they're looking for a job. And if they're willing to do that with their current employer, what's the chances they're going to do that to you if you hire them? It's probably pretty high. So we like to be real candid and say, look, we want you to say, I'm looking for a better position. This is the one I'm interested in. Declare it.
And it is really interesting because, there are a lot of books about preparing for interview. I know, Rich, you mentioned you do that also, like you help people in that area, but that's a scenario you can't really prepare for as much. Right. And I mean, it definitely makes it easier for you to see who is the right fit for that scenario. And another thing that you mentioned, you mentioned those 2 points. The point that you mentioned first, and let's just explore it now, is this idea of affordability. And you mentioned if you could afford half of the salary, you should fully commit to that person. I think that's something easier for people to do as they expand their businesses. But for the person making that first hire or starting with a small team, how do you suggest they get more comfortable with hiring someone who, they think they can only afford half of their salary and being able to build up?
Yeah, it's a common roadblock. In fact, I would say it's the point in a business where most businesses either can't make that leap of faith and they can't go to where they'll have a team, and so they'll decide to do it solo. And honestly, I mean, if you're that good, if your business is really, if your service is that good, if your product's that good, you have to have the confidence that you'll be able to grow it if you get other resources around you. So it doesn't have to be that you have to, in today's world, we all know this, right? We're both working virtually, right? There are people that will work virtually. There are folks that will work less than a full work week. So if someone's hesitant at all, give it a try with someone who's a virtual worker, whether it's a VA or whether it's a technical person that only works part-time. But I would say it's the movement from doing it yourself and proving that you have a product or service that's viable by yourself, and then transitioning that so that other people can either help you deliver it or help support you as you deliver it is a critical transition point in the growth of a business. And I'd highly encourage somebody to make that move, even if you have to take some baby steps to get there.
And the great thing with online is that you don't really have to commit too much, because I feel like when people think about adding to a team, they think a whole bunch of full-time people, which is definitely something you could do. It's definitely something you could work up to. but even just finding someone on Fiverr to get started, just to have
Right.
that proof of concept. And it's a small step. It's not going to be the life changing step, but it's rather that step that shows you how life changing it can be as you fully embrace building up the team. And when we do find the right people, we have the team around us, how do we then engage and inspire them? Because it's one thing to have the team, it's another thing to have people who are really passionate for your business, but they are not like, because you can have good A-level people who are looking for that other job also, who just don't like the business model that you have. So how do we have that engagement?
Right. Yeah, that's a really important thing, because we want more than just having people on our payroll. What we want, or we want to bring people on who can help us think through the difficult challenges in growing a business, which, Mark, is why I use a bike as a metaphor for a business, right? It's why I've got the bike on the wall behind me. And the reason I do that is because most people talk about business in a very um, um, ethereal way, a scholarly way. And most of our employees check out when we start talking strategy and those kinds of things. So I like to make business more practical so that they can understand how they fit into the business, and then engage them in helping us make the business better. Because I think what I've found in my experience has been the people who are working in the business tend to know more about the business than the person running the business, right? They know the details. They know exactly what the processes are. They know where the where the problem areas are, where the sticking points are. They know what can go wrong in most places. The senior most person in the business likely doesn't know that. So we need them to share their knowledge with us and help us make the business better. So we have to talk in language they can understand. That's why I use a bike.
Yeah, and I mean, I do like the bike analogy, and just being able to, like once you fully embrace it once and you just keep on working at it, like you just keep seeing the effects again and again. And the great thing about hiring and finding the right people is it is a repeatable process. Once you get it down, once you just keep it continuing on the system, and then you are able to build and scale a company. I know earlier I mentioned how Rich was really instrumental in helping that small manufacturing company go up to like $100 million in annual revenue. And that's all built on teamwork, because the CEO at all these big companies is a decision maker. He's not the person who knows, or she is not the person who knows all of the little things that are going on. That's other people. But you do eventually evolve where you are just that decision maker.
No, that's right. Mark, I will tell you that we manufactured storm doors. I had no clue how to manufacture a storm door. I didn't know all the parts and pieces that went together. But I made it my point to engage all 200 people in the business and get their brain engaged in how we could make the business better, how we could tune up our bike. And I made them a part of it. I gave them a profit share program so that they could help make it happen, so they would win when we win. And it was amazing what they did. They had far more intelligence about the industry, the business, the opportunities that we had certainly than I did. And that was what made it successful.
And notice how, like, when you're a solopreneur, like, like you are the person driving the growth, like you could say, relationships and people, and stuff like that. But notice how Rich is quickly putting the credit to all of those people who were instrumental, who were doing all the different things behind the scenes to make it happen. You do need that in your business, whether it's something where you just start with Fiverr, or you start with one person on Upwork and you only have $100 a month budget. But it is something that you do want to build upon so that you have more time to pursue the more profitable things that you are truly skilled at.
That's exactly right, Mark. I can't agree with you more. And I would tell you this, for the tip that I would give to most business owners is be creative in your thinking. Don't be limited by a corporate approach to incentives and motivation. I will tell you that one of the incentives I used that was the most powerful was I set 5 targets for our team, and I told them that the first month we could hit all 5 targets, I would give my vehicle, I had a Jeep Grand Cherokee at the time. I said I would give it to I would pull one name out of the hat and give it to one of my team members. And that by itself drove incredible change in our business. Just getting away from a typical incentive plan really does work.
And I see something very similar. I'm in a lot of affiliate marketing promotions for some of these like big course launches, and that's the way they all work. First place gets this really awesome prize. Second place gets this really awesome prize. So they're still communicating. They're still doing all the things you're supposed to do, but the incentivizing and the whole being able to see everyone's results, like where they are on the leaderboard, really helps with a lot of those launches. And I mean, this has been really awesome stuff. I think you guys listening you guys got a great episode. Rich, I'm wondering if you could share with us, where can we continue to follow your working journey?
No, that'd be great. I'd love to. If you're interested, I put together a special web page for your listeners, Mark. My website name is Tour de Profit. So if you think of Tour de France, the bike race, mine is Tour de Profit, TOURDEPROFIT. tourdeprofit.com, and I put a page up that's / breakthrough success, all written out, one word, breakthrough success, and I put some free resources there for anybody who'd like to learn more.
Rich, thank you for creating that custom page. We will have that and your website in the show notes. Thank you again for joining us on Breakthrough Success. It was a pleasure having you on the show.
Thanks. Glad to be here. Appreciate being here.